Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, we're going to be cupping Collaborative Origins. Thank you so much to Collaborative Origins for sending me a really nice sample of your coffees. Got a nice little letter from the co-founder, Ryan Chipman. Thanks for sending these coffees. We're going to cup them. We're going to see what's up. And then we're going to probably jump onto the computer and talk a little bit more about Collaborative Origins and learn all about you together. It'd be my first time just getting to know all this information just as like a potential green buyer, right? And I want to take you guys with me. So let's get started. For this cupping, what we're going to do, we're going to treat it like what it is, a brand new green, a brand new sourcer and company. I don't know anything about them. We haven't established anything. They just basically reached out on IG and said, hey, can we send you some samples? And I said, sure, no problem. I love to taste samples. And so what I did was about a day and a half ago, I roasted them on my little Ikawa. And so I have these here and I've labeled them 1, 2, and 3. So for my coordinating samples, I actually did 2 versions of number 1 here, which is this one. Okay, so, and then 2 and then 3. So let me tell you the parameters for the Ikawa roaster. Now, when I'm roasting things on the Ikawa, what I generally do, because I have the home version, I just do the light roast profile and then high development. And so this first one, the reason why I have 2 samples here, this is the one where I did it correctly, and this is the one where I did it more of a medium, but we're still gonna cup it. You should always kind of like cup or check your mistakes or validate if your mistakes are actually mistakes. So we're gonna see what the actual difference is. That'll be cool. So we have a light roasted, high development, meaning like the end of the portion of the roast is a little bit longer. And then this one is a medium roasted, high development. So we're gonna see this one should be roastier in its flavors. It should have more caramelization in the cup versus this one. And the reason why I do that is because I want to see the potential of this green. I don't want to roast it into medium ever as a sample because I want to taste the terroir and I want to taste the varietal, right? We learned that from Jared when he dropped the mic on us. Just because it stands out on the cupping table doesn't necessarily mean it's good, okay? So cool. Now we're getting a little bit more refined with our palate, and this is all stuff I've heard before, even way back when I first learned how to cup. But for some reason, as you get kind of like maybe slotted into your routines, or maybe you learn a new thing and you forgot what you just learned, you know, that's just what it is. Okay, here's more stats. So I got a 13% weight loss here on this medium and then a 12% on this light one. Interesting enough, as I moved on through the roast, the Ikawa got hotter and hotter, started to retain a lot more heat, which was interesting, something that I could maybe play with in the future. But I kept all of the roasting parameters the same. So again, we're light roast. This second one, 13% weight loss, another 13% weight loss. So that'll be interesting. If it's going to start tasting more medium, does that mean it's like roasted too much? This will be interesting to test. It's good that Ryan gave me a lot so I can play with the Ikawa and maybe do more testing as we move on. But we're already into almost the second day now. I need to cup these. These are all washed processed coffees. So typically we want to get in about 24 hours after you roast it to really cup it and see what that green has to offer, right? We're not buying this as like a repeat customer. We're buying this and assessing this as an absolutely new green. We know nothing about it. We know nothing about, you know, where this thing comes from. We haven't established anything. So we want to try to do things, don't skip any steps, okay? We'll get into the nitty gritty of like each one of these coffees when we peruse their website and kind of background about this. So these come from 2 producers, from Max Perez from the Finca La Hermosa and 2 lots from the Casamaj Cooperative in Hilo Tepique, Guatemala. All right. If you'd be willing to film some content, boom, we're here. We'd be ever so grateful. Cool. Yeah, I'm grateful. Every time I get to try new coffee, for sure. Okay. So let's get these measured out. You know, another thing I should have done, if we're treating this like an absolutely new green, is we should do 2 cups per coffee. The reason why they do that, like if I remember back to like the first time I cupped ever, is like they are testing to make sure if there's any, if the cup is consistent, you know. So if we just did 1 cup per each coffee at a cupping table, like SCA standards, you should do 2. Actually, you should do 5. But like the shortcut to that is like 2. So in my case, like I had enough. I could have done 2 per cupping just to sort of check the consistency of the cup for every coffee. That's what I should have done because I had enough, right? I had enough, but actually, you know, it's just what I did. So I'm actually going to do more experiments with the Ikawa and play with it a little more with these coffees. And I'll touch back with you on that. But yeah, normally you would see 2, and then SEA standards is 5 per coffee, because they really want to check and make sure the consistency of the cup, there's no defects. Like, why is this one funky in the same coffee, or this cup is funky and this one's not? Like, what's up with that, right? So it allows them a deeper dive and to make sure the quality control is on point with the sorting and everything like that. It's been so busy, I haven't even promoted any of the coffees that we have. I think one countdown. Like a holiday blend. Well, yeah, that's just how it is sometimes. So I don't even know what these are. I just said 1, 2, 3. It's easy like that. So we're trying to do this as blind as possible, right? And based on what we learned on the last video, I really want to try to break down what are my primary flavors, what are my secondary flavors, and what's coming from the roast itself. Right? If I can get to that point where I can really delineate and start, you know, associating what I'm tasting to like the varietal that's here. Now, I don't know any varietals, I don't remember, but you know, we're gonna taste these things and then sort of like draw a line to like, oh, that's Catimor, that's Tipica, or something like that. That's my goal anyway. Okay. Let's see. This one looks a little darker, but generally they all look the same. A lot of chaff in here, interesting enough. All right, let's give them a little sniffy sniff. We're gonna do it the Clatch way. So I should be smelling, as a sample roast, I should be smelling some sort of underdevelopedness, so I could try to really see if I can smell the terroir, if possible. I learned somewhere that tomato is sort of a underdeveloped note, and so that's a good sign, right? Generally speaking. That's what I'm getting, like a stewed tomato. Okay. I also cupped with Mill City Roasters on that live cupping that they did on October 5th. And that was really interesting because they were able to get so much from the dry fragrance, which I always get like tomatoes, toffees, chocolates. Sometimes like if it's like a like a natural, I get berries, like jammy berries, not fresh berries, like jammy concentrated jammy berries or something like that. But I don't get much, and I think that's definitely because I have like sinus problems. I never have a clear nose, so I definitely at a disadvantage there, where I feel like my tools, my olfactory tools, are just not up to snuff on a lot of this stuff. But you could even tell like my voice is like a lot deeper because allergies and whatnot. But it is what it is, you know. We just do our best here so we can see them. So here we are. We're gonna cup Collaborative Origins, right? That's what it's called. Yeah, Collaborative Origins. Let's get some water in these. Got my timer. I need my towel. All right. force. Okay, cool. Rinse cup. So now at this point we can smell the crust. See what we get here. Sort of like grape nuts with fresh berries. This one I can't tell. This is the same for me. I always have a hard time with that. And then definitely when I break the crust, unless it's like a crazy ass like geisha or some sort of like anaerobic lactic acid something or other, I can't tell anything when I break the crust too. But you know, it's what I do. Region San Martin, Hilo. We're gonna put these these names in the Google when we get up to the computer, so they can pronounce them for us. And we'll have to Google it and see what's the climate, you know, what's the terroir like. I really want to get into that because I don't know, it's just maybe it's going to help me kind of just identify flavors better the way that they do with wine. If we're really trying to utilize the systems and I think the methods of tasting wine like a sommelier, like, you know, that other video that I did, and not to become a sommelier per se, but just to refine and help your palate more in terms of identifying what it's tasting, which is super fun. Wouldn't that be fun? And to develop that skill, I'm definitely like refining my focus as to what am I trying to learn and why, and how am I going to use it in my roasting journey and to become a better roaster. Because you can really do whatever you want to do, you know, in terms of like your learning and everything, especially if you do it as a hobby like me. This is just my approach. So, okay, we're going to let the clock run a little bit more. We're going to break the crust and smell. Okay. The first one that was like only 12% weight loss, it does smell, and the rest smell very like that brightness has muddled away, calmed down. Like I feel like it's been smashed down a little bit to toffee and caramel, that sort of vibe, like the roasty flavors. I smell that. I smell the roast and not necessarily the terroir yet. And that's maybe because one nose is clogged. Permanently clogged always. Yeah, it's this one. Okay. So very little chaff. If we look at the color of this coffee, you know, we shouldn't talk about color because like it's kind of a dead giveaway. But I'm glad to see that they're generally all the same color. In terms of a light roast, you know, we're gonna wait. We can't taste anything right now. It's gonna be way too hot. All right, we're 7 minutes in. I think it's safe to cup. Woo! Wow, this was my favorite. As is really nice balance of like sort of berries, lemony, tea-like qualities in there, and then the body is medium. It's not thin. And then underneath there's this nice little warmth of sweetness and caramelization that I think is coming from the roast, the medium part of the roast, in comparison to this, which I was like, let's make it a more underdeveloped roast. We'll do light roast level and then high development. And that definitely tastes more green, more raw, more underdeveloped. Man, the allergies are crazy this morning. Wow, they're really good. The flavors itself, they're actually very fruity, I'd say, for like a washed processed coffee. That's interesting. Fruit punch in here. Some brisk lemon tea. A ferment a wine-like flavor in there. Berries. Jammy berries and fresh berries, but not a tart berry, a very ripe berry, and definitely red fruit. It tastes very like a natural, which is interesting. Okay, one more. It's weird that these wash processed coffees taste like naturals. Interesting. And by that I mean I'm getting a lot of, like, to me, red fruit and this taste of ferment. This is a quality that I personally love. Like, I'm always looking for it. But then Jared came in and was like, hey, you need to love everything the same amount of love. You need to love all coffees and appreciate all good coffees. Don't just, favor naturals and lactic process and fermentation and stuff like that. So I'm trying to do that. They're all tasty. But can I tell the difference? Water, palate cleanser. Allergies are on an all-time high today. I took my Zyrtec. I do my nasal wash. Try to do all the things. Okay, creamier than 1. Brighter than 2. Okay, brighter than 2. Sweeter, more balanced than 2. More balanced than 2. I think I like the third one the best. Well, not like the best. I think the third one is more balanced. It has a roundness and a sweetness to it. The mid palate, like the flavors that I taste in the middle of tasting it, is really pleasant. The acidity is not strong. The body is medium. This is a very thin body, sort of thin, versus this one. Same thing. So we're still comparing, the same roast, but this one's better than this one. Let me try it again. This one is better. Why? It's fuller in the mouth. It feels more complete. This feels underdeveloped, untapped. I think I'm tasting the terroir here, and the roast flavors are not yet developed yet here. So maybe this roast here that I, correctly roasted at a light roast and a high development, number 1, should go a little bit more roastier. And I think it will bring a more balanced cup. This is number 3. I don't even know what these are. I'm not even looking at it. I'm just saying this is number 3, right? I have it marked in the back. This one I feel like is the most balanced, which was interesting, right? Because like on the first pass when it was hotter, I liked number 1, and then as it started to cool, I started to feel differently about it. It started to taste differently. So let's try it again. This is that 13% weight loss, number 1, against 13% weight loss, number 3. It's brighter. Yeah. So this is more acidic forward. Personally, I like it. I like that acidity. I learned something during the Mill City Roasters. People who like high acidity are called acid heads. And it's a high noted coffee. The notes are high, acidity high. That's how I kind of understood it. As it's cooling, it's getting brighter. I personally like that. Versus number 3. The acidity is rounded off and supported by a nice sweetness. A roundness is very pleasant tasting as it's cooling, right? I think 3 is the winner if we're going to say base this on like you win in terms of pleasing the most people. Number 3. Let's see what it is. Guatemala, from the same farm, right? The same region. Their tasting notes: citrus, chocolates, marshmallow, graham. That's it. But number 3, how are these all different? Ah, okay. So this is from, so the difference is like the farmer or the farmers. So this is the La Cooperativa. This is from San Martin. San Martin. All right. The San Martin Cooperative. Sorry. Number 1 is from Max Fernando Perez Rios. Finca La Hermosa. Argentinengo. Butterfinger toffee, peanut honey. Whoa. These are totally off from what I'm getting. I'm getting like, okay, number 1. It's number 1, right? Yeah. Number 1, that's these two right here. I'm getting berries. Yes, toffee. Butterfinger toffee, peanut honey. Maybe at a darker roast level, but I'm really tasting really nice berries. We don't know the varietal yet, okay? But I'm getting berries. Definitely a tea. They taste like naturals to me, which is very interesting. There's a ferment quality and a wine quality to them. This is number 1. Roasted correctly, or more underdeveloped. Oh yeah. Very nice. Yeah, maybe, you know, it's not to say they're wrong, right? I'm not wrong because I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong because I am just reporting what I'm tasting. And, you know, however my taste buds can be. Now, number 2, we didn't really say anything about number 2. It's also a really great coffee. But it just doesn't have that roundness. So this is very high noted, thinner body than this one, and it just could be the roast quality. There's definitely potential here in number 2, but it's not developed yet. But great citrus. The body's not there yet. Like the roasty flavors aren't really developed yet here. It's definitely a high noted or acidic forward coffee. And definitely more citrusy stuff, yellow fruit stuff versus red fruit stuff, okay? So if we're trying to really like, okay, like let's put them in categories. This is yellow fruit here. Number 2, yellow fruit, citrus, yellows, brighter, higher notes of acidity than number 1, which is more red fruits for sure. Red fruits for sure. So, a subtler form of acidity. Most acidic, number 2, for me, in this particular roast. It could be different for other people who are roasting on a different machine, different parameters, different finishing temp, for sure. These all finished at a very high temperature. I want to say 400 something. And a total roast time of, let me see. And again, it's on the Ikawa too. So it's like, it's different than a drum roaster, but not that much different. Yeah, roast degree light, development time high. That's basically what I can pick. Okay, so where was I? Most acidic, number 2. High noted. Good. very good. But I think if we take it into like a production roast, we want to round out that acidity a little bit to please more people. I'll drink this all day. All day. But eventually that acidity could get old. Whereas number 3, roasted the same exact way, rounder, pleasing, the acidity is there, but it's not like overshadowing everything and sweeping out everybody and being like, I'm acidity. No, it's just like, I'm acidity, you're sweetness, and we are balanced. That's what number 3 is. And it's very good, and it's roasted the same. So that's interesting, right? So we can really keep this guy as a light roasted coffee, and I could say that this is truly balanced versus like number 2. I'll be like, in order for me to make this balanced, I got to take it to a more roastier level. Something that, just as a roaster, not saying anything, just as a roaster, you're going, how do I deal with this situation? Number 1, which I really like too, in terms of acidity, number 1, number 2, number 3, all pleasing. This one's the highest. This one's the second highest. This one is balanced. Okay. Number 1. That was the underdeveloped one. This is the one that roasted at 13%, more roastier. And then, yeah, just more depth here. Everything working well together. Mill City Roasters talked about the roast itself being more supportive, of the terroir and the varietal's primary and secondary flavors. That's what this has done. And the roast. So what I would try to do based on this, like if I was like, cool, so this is the one I'd like to buy, maybe potentially, right? Because I think that perhaps as a buyer I go, this one is the most balanced, and I feel that can give me not a hard time at the roaster. I can keep it at a light roast, and I can go, this is my very balanced light roast, and I could maybe market it that way, something like that, right? Versus these, like maybe these really high noted coffees are more specific in their use. Versus maybe this, I could take it and be like, I have a lot of depth here and a lot of really great balance from the terroir and the varietal, whatever it is. And my roast, the way that I roast, whatever, I feel like this is a win for me or something, right? That's how I would approach it. I think if I were to buy like a lot of coffee at this point. Now, if I were to buy, I would run more tests again, especially if they're a new producer to me, a new source. I would run as many tests as I need to feel very comfortable. So say I make a decision here and I like this today. Now, if I'm gonna spend a lot of money, I want to make sure that whatever it is I'm buying is worth it. And how do I make sure it's worth it? I run my tests, I see what's in the cup, and I then see if it's worth it, right? It's really like what's in the cup. And it just goes like that. Like it's difficult. Like obviously you want to do this on camera. You would be focused. You would be dialed in. You wouldn't be distracted. I'm trying to talk to camera. I'm trying to talk to you and share this process. But like that's what I would do, right? Okay, so cool. That was fun. I think so. What I want to do, the next thing, is run it through the Ikawa again. I waited almost 2 days to cup these. Being washed coffees, it gave it some time to rest. Now it would be really fun to be like, do this test again, write down all my notes, right? Do this test again, but cup it at 24 hours and see if there's any difference. I would try some different roast profiles and maybe do side by side. So for example, I do like, okay, here's a light, here's a medium, how does it fare? Here's a light, here's a medium, how does it fare? Like that, and then compare it again. Lastly, I would think about how that specific coffee would add value to whatever I'm offering, on my menu. My menu is full right now. I just spent a crap ton on coffee, on green coffee with Asea, so it's not like I'm gonna buy right away. But this is so helpful for me just as a roaster on like refining the skill of not only cupping but green buying. That's a whole other skill as well. It's like, how do I deem a coffee is worth it? And those parameters are so different for everybody, right? Based on how much coffee you roast, your customers, like, do they like a more like rounder thing, or are they acid heads like you, right? Like me, are they going to go for this one? High acid. Okay, let's take it up. Maybe let's take it up a little bit with the roast, but like not so much, because I want to keep this high acidity. Now, I cup these coffees in search of balance. Just based on, because I like the last couple of videos, like we talked about, okay, how are people judging this coffee? And I want to not just like favor the standout coffee all the time. I want to cup these coffees, try to be non-biased about it, try to be objective about it. And so that was my objective for this cupping table, in particular with these new coffees, is like, can I taste that wash process, or does it taste like something else? Can I taste that varietal or that terroir where it's coming from Guatemala? Can I taste that? Can I differentiate that between Guatemala and Ethiopia? Right? So these are all the little questions that we ask ourselves as roasters, as we're at the cupping table, when we're going to buy green, all that stuff. So fun. This video has been so long, but anyway, thanks for hanging out. Thank you, Collaborative Origins, for sending me these coffees. I'm going to run more tests. I'll share those results with you as they come. But I really enjoyed this cupping table. Really nice coffees here that we have in front of us. All of them are good. But number 3, I would say, is my favorite in terms of the most pleasing. And then still a standout, still very good, number 2, with the high noted acid forward coffee right there. Okay, cool. So that was fun. In the next video, since this video is so long, we're going to jump on the computer, and maybe I'll run some tests too, and then do some comparative notes to this one. We'll jump on the computer, finish talking about this, again, we'll talk about collaborative origins again, and try to tie a bow on all that stuff. But this was just cupping today, and later on we'll jump on the computer and talk a little bit more about collaborative origins. But thank you so much for hanging out. We'll see you in the next one.